This is a video about how to go about finishing the 5.2a Geometric Constraints Alternative assignment in Autodesk Inventor. So when you download 5.2a Geometric Constraints, you're going to notice that you have all these small geometric constraint problems to solve. So I'm going to walk through with you how to go about editing this. So you'll notice that when you drag your mouse over the top of any of the text or any of the lines, that the lines turn red. So when I drag my mouse over the top of the lines, we're going to right click and we're going to go to edit. And we're going to zoom in and we're going to do these one at a time. So as I zoom in up here, make perpendicular is the first thing it's going to ask. So we're going to go up to our geometric constraints, which are up here in your constraint toolbar. And it says make perpendicular. And if I leave my mouse over the top of this one, looks like I have a sideways T. If you just leave your mouse there, it's going to tell you what each one does, and it's going to show you a before and after picture. We're going to click on the perpendicular constraint, and you're going to click on both lines, and it's going to make it perpendicular, and there's your perpendicular constraint. We'll right click and say OK. Next one, make all three lines parallel to one another. We're going to come up to the left of the perpendicular constraint. You'll see the parallel constraint. Click on the parallel constraint, click on all three lines. You have to say one is one to the other, the relationship one to the other. Right click and say OK. Now, dimension number 3 to 2 inches, and then fix the circles 1 and 2. Make 3 tangent to 1 and 2. So the first thing it's going to ask us to do is circle number 3 needs to be a diameter of 2. Click on dimension, click on the outside of 3, click, and you're going to do a numeric constraint of 2 inches, and hit enter. It says fix circles 1 and 2. So in order to fix a circle, well, let's right click and go to OK. To fix a circle, you're going to have to use the padlock constraint up here. So we're going to tap on the circle and click on the padlock, and that fixes it. The fixed constraint means I can't change the size of this and I can't change its geometric relationship. We're going to do the same thing to number 1. Tap on the circle. Notice how the fixed constraint's pushed in. Let's hit escape on our keyboard. You can see that that went away. Now it's going to ask us to make 3 tangent to 1 and 2. So the tangent constraint is this circle with a line right here. Click on tangent, click on 3, and click on 2, and click on 3, and click on 1. And notice that we're tangent now. Now one went inside, one went on the outside, but the main thing is that it's tangent. It touches this but does not go through it if we zoom in. That's what tangency means, to touch an arc or a point at one point and not go through it. So we have tangency. We're going to right click and say OK. Let's move to the next one. Make circle tangent to both lines. Let's go back to tangent. Click on tangent, click on your circle, click on the diagonal line. Click on your circle, click on your horizontal line, right click and say OK. You now have a circle that is tangent to both of these lines. So over here on the right hand side, you're going to see these magnifying glasses, and I'm going to click on the one that's second from the bottom, and I'm going to click on zoom all, and that's going to zoom me out. Notice we've done the top 4. We're now going to do the middle 4. Let's zoom in down here. Fix point C, make endpoints A and B coincident with point C. So I'm going to click on point C right here, and I'm going to click on the fix button. And that point is now fixed. Make endpoints A and B coincident with point C. Now the endpoints are the endpoints of the lines. So coincident is up here in the top left-hand corner. It kind of looks like the letter L. Coincident forces 2 points to touch. Click on coincident, the top of B, point C. Top of A, point C. And we now have both of these points coincident with point C. All 3 of these points touch. That's what a coincident constraint does. Right click, say OK. Next one, make circles concentric. Your concentric constraint is up here next to the fixed constraint. It causes each of these circles to share the same center point. Constraint, concentric, circle, circle, circle to circle. And all 3 of these now share the same center point. Right click and say OK. The collinear constraint forces lines to be on the same line, so even a same imaginary line. So collinear is between coincident and concentric. We're going to click on collinear and click on both of your lines. Right click and say OK. You'll note now that you can drag these lines and they're along the same line. That is what collinear means, both on the same line. Next constraint, make lines horizontal. These are both diagonal lines. We can use our horizontal constraint right here. Click on horizontal, click on the line, click on the line. Both of these now have the horizontal constraint that you see up here. Right click and say OK. I'm going to go back to zoom all. You'll note that we've done the top 4, we've done the middle 4. We will now come down here and do the bottom 4 and we will be done. So make lines vertical. Your vertical constraint is to the right of the horizontal constraint. I'm going to click on the vertical constraint, click on each of the lines. They're now vertical. Right click, say OK. Make an equilateral triangle. We want each one of these sides to be equal. So here's what we'll do. We're going to use the equal constraint, which is in the bottom right-hand corner. Click on equal. Click on each of your lines. You now have yourself an equilateral triangle. They're all the same size. You'll see this equal constraint show up. Right click, say OK. It says make the circles the same size. We're going to do the same thing again. Equals. This equal to this. They are now the exact same size. Right click, say OK. Zoom over to the right. Line up the centers of the circles on the same horizontal plane. So on the same horizontal line, we want these to line up. We're going to use the horizontal constraint. Horizontal. Point and point. Point and point. Right click, say OK. Notice I can drag these, but I cannot drag them up and down without them being aligned with each other. That's a horizontal constraint. I'm going to go back to zoom all. Now what's nice about these make the circles the same, make an equilateral triangle is if I go to dimension and I want to dimension this and that's 1.5 and I make it 2 and I hit enter, they automatically adjust. Equilateral triangle, if I was to go in and change an angle in here or anything like, if I was going to drag out, if I can go to aligned here, I'm at 1.9. If I put in 3 and hit enter, it automatically makes all of those equal with it. So geometric constraints are an excellent thing to use when you're actually going in and designing objects to make sure that they all stay within the geometric boundaries that you set for them. So this has been a video for how to go about completing Activity 5.2a, Geometric Constraints.